Hi, Judith. It's such a pleasure to have you as my podcast guest today.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to entertaining you with what it is that we do, looking under the art hood of commercial and luxury art consulting. So I hope your listeners will enjoy this
Absolutely.
journey.
We have lots to cover today, but
Yep.
before we dive in, I have a few warm-up questions that I ask everyone on this show. So, if you can meet any artist from history, who would it be and why?
That is Artemisia Gentileschi as a sort of trailblazing woman in a male-dominated world of 17th century. Her work continues to inspire me. She could be a practitioner even today, just based on what the trauma she experienced, her resilience, her artistic genius. Incredibly strong woman, bold and defiant. There's something about her that just sort of I relate to. Sophia Loren in Two Women. Uh, anyway, I just think that her paintings are just remarkable in terms of capturing flowers, light, and the gestural, the bringing mythology to life. She's just an inspiration for me.
For sure. And talking about owning a piece of art, if price wasn't an issue, what piece would you like to have in your home?
That would be Diego Velázquez, Las Meninas.
Yes.
And every time I'm in Madrid, it is where I go immediately to just stare at it and look at sort of the remarkable detail, the scale of it. At the location where it is in the Prado, I spent an extraordinary amount of time with it, with her, looking at the masterful composition that captures the wealth and opulence of the Spanish court, the intricate details, the Julian of brushstrokes. It's sort of unparalleled in fabrics, textures. There was a contemporary artist, Eve, I think her name was Eve Rothschild. Her piece is in the MoMA, but she recreated a contemporary version of that piece as a video. And they all whispered that she staged the exact composition, and she staged it what it was like while that was Velasquez was painting that painting. So it's an interesting parallel between historical and contemporary takes on the same painting.
Wow, I would have to do some research now to see it because it sounds fantastic. Definitely gonna Google it after this
Yeah, please do.
conversation. And in terms of looking at artworks, we're so used to seeing them in galleries and museums. What are some unexpected places that you've encountered it art in?
Years ago, I was in Stockholm, and I was there. I'm also a big, huge fan of architecture, so I was there to see the beauty of the city, its history, the home of the Nobel Prize, Stockholm Syndrome, and ABBA. But the hotel where I stayed, I think it was called an at six, was unbelievable in terms of their art collection and passion for art. It was an impressive experience. They had notable artists from, Jamais Plansa. They even had Huawei's speakers that apparently were $500,000. Who knew? But the owner of this brand is an art collector, and he ensures that what is in the hotels resonates with his guests and his personality and ethos.
Wonderful. And in terms of talking about iconic or timeless art, what do you think are the qualities for artwork to be considered timeless?
I think it's important to fall under that rubric is they capture the essence of a time while simultaneously is transcending it. A seminal work that shifts the art world in seismic ways, whether a breakthrough in perspective, like for example the Renaissance, or the invention of a new technique, perhaps photography. Science has always been a driving force in the evolution of art. Cubism, a new perspective, and video with Bruce Nauman. So these are all groundbreaking pieces, not only reflect the zeitgeist of the era, but also challenge prevailing norms, the boundaries, what is considered possible in art, such as graffiti, which is, Basquiat and Haring. They spark conversations, inspire future generations of artists, and continue to resonate with audiences through thought-provoking across time and culture. Think of Vermeer, think of the Goldfinch. Fabricius is the only painting, I think, that has received a CT scan.
Wow, wonderful example for sure. Yes, I feel like we can talk more and more and more for hours about art history and so many amazing artists and movements
Yeah.
in the past.
They also get copied a lot, so you've done something interesting if it's appearing in other bodies of work.
So true. And going back in time and talking about you, so tell us a little bit more about what sparked your interest in art and how it evolved over time.
So this feels like a lifetime ago question. I was quite young, walking through a garden with a friend, someone I looked up to, who, through this pathway highlighted cosmos and lilies and ponds and drew a connection between that and Claude Monet. And I was so impressed and so taken by that reference that it kind of spoke to me, and it was the match that lit my passion for art and storytelling. It sort of became the moment of a moment suspended in oil or emulsion or whatever it is, that it imbued a time, a place of that moment in history, like Versailles, and the it's not the image before, it's not the image after, it's that image. It's just imbued with so much history, and I find that has carried on into my own practice in terms of our own ethos, which is storytelling through art, and it's our tagline.
Yes, and I definitely saw like most majority of your projects, you are focusing a lot on narratives and storytelling. And that is
Yes.
also part of a lot of exhibitions that we see in galleries and museums. And talking about those, what was one of the most memorable ones that you've seen, whether in the past or recently, that you really admired?
I think the one that stands out above all is the 1980 retrospective of Pablo Picasso at the Museum of Modern Art. It was an exhibition, unprecedented scale and significance, it was the first time the entire museum was dedicated to one artist. The sheer magnitude of the event was staggering. Over 1 million people went to see it. It showcased the incredible range and depth of his work, from early experiments to cubism to his later works. The exhibition was a testament to enduring legacy of an artist who continually pushed boundaries of what was possible, forever altering the course of art history, which goes back to your question earlier about what makes something iconic, a true masterpiece or unforgettable. He certainly would have been a seminal figure. At the heart of everything we do is the belief that art has the power to connect people, to tell stories, and to transform spaces into something extraordinary. Just as that long ago walk in the garden sparked my own passion for art, we strive to ignite the same sense of wonder and inspiration for our clients and the communities they serve. Through our carefully curated art programs, we aim to create environments where local is focal and amplify the best practitioners who would most leave a lasting impression and be part of a cohesive narrative.
Oh, it's a beautiful statement, like a mission statement. And I do think your vision sets you apart from a lot of art consultants and people working in the industry. What do you think is one of the most unique approaches that you take when outsourcing art for your clients?
So our emphasis, I told you, is on storytelling, but we marry that with technical skills, with an alignment to the architecture and interior design practices. We recognize the process of integrating art into space is not merely about picking art. but rather a complex, multifaceted, phased process that requires a structured, methodical approach. As a creative director, it's my role to see the overall vision, weaving the brand, hotel ownership, and a budget. From there, I have dedicated project leads who work closely with me to refine that concept. And from there, together our skilled art consultants, and they bring their expertise to the table and develop a refined art program that connects all of those earlier statements about brand, culture, local is focal, and more importantly, we color outside the lines with creativity, but we stay inside with budgets. It's very important. So again, it's not picking art. It's very complex. Some projects take anywhere from 1 to 3 years. Also, the technical skills are like AutoCAD, Adobe Suite, Revit. It allows us to tackle even the most challenging aspects of art integration. Sometimes it's suspending a 2-ton sculpture from a ceiling, ensuring a 50-foot wall can withstand the weight of a 1,000-pound woven tapestry. We have the technical expertise, and I would argue that most firms don't possess this trifecta of skills.
Yes, I totally agree. And there is like the holistic approach of having team with different or diverse skill sets under one roof and having all the facilities to do different types of projects, because you don't do only art inside, quote unquote, but you also do a lot of public projects. And they
That's
have a lot
correct.
of restrictions and problems, quote unquote, that you need to solve. Maybe give us a couple of examples of your most favorite public projects that you've done so far.
Well, I think the one that has added sort of to the cultural fabric of Toronto is the Jamais Plensa, the head at 100 Adelaide Street West. It's 35, I believe it's 35 feet tall, and it was an incredible journey, going to his studio in Barcelona to do a process check-in with our client, Oxford. And recently we installed Dustin Yellen at the Well, which is Canada's largest development, 7.5 acres. Remarkable development in that it's, brought as much of the outdoors in for Canadian climate. It's got a canopy over it. I think a lot of people don't really understand is the complexity of public art consulting. It is a very long process. The soup to nuts can take anywhere from 3 to 7 to 10 to 12 years. And so it's important that one has in their toolkit patience and diplomacy when navigating the city, and the patience and all the sort of requirements that are beyond our control. We have another project being installed in the fall, a South Korean artist. And recently we completed a call for artists. It's been awarded to a number of First Nations in Vancouver, or at least Burnaby. That's where the project is. One in particular was the Salish artist, Susan Point. So it's all integrated into the architecture, and the architect on that is Diamond Schmidt.
Yes, you did so many amazing, fantastic projects. I'm always amazed, and like even listening to sometimes how long it takes for you from the idea to like making sure everything is in place and then to installing it, and can be years, not just months. And seeing it comes to fruition, I think it's such a rewarding thing for you,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I think that's the tangible, is the reward at the end, to be able to see the finished project installed. But again, it takes a village. I'm not alone. I have an amazing team that I really want to give a shout out to. Alan, Danielle, Elizabeth, Lisa. They're what make TAP the sort of the tensile strength They each bring a remarkable set of skills, and together we make things happen.
Yes. And you mentioned earlier that storytelling is a very important aspect or part of your practice, but also community engagement. What does
Mhm.
it mean for you to have an element of community engagement in your art projects?
Well, it's crucial from the beginning to sort of engage with the residents who are going to be interacting with whatever the community benefit is. It fosters a sense of shared ownership and pride in local spaces, including the community in the process important for gaining buy-in. It's a healthy disagreement can be a sign that the art is making an impact. It's a good thing. You don't have to like everything. It means you're looking at it. Art has the power to bring people together, spark conversations, and enhance cultural tourism, both locally and globally. I find myself traveling to various cities based on a new building, a new public art. But I'm not alone. I must fall into a demographic that does do that. So it is such an integral part of placemaking in any city. We work all over doing the same thing, working in public realm in making sure that it has a story attached to the placemaking.
I love it. And I also love hearing that you think about the people or the end user and end viewer who will be enjoying the works on display permanently or temporary. The project that I came through and I found about the company was the mural that you collaborated with Gavin Lynch for the
Okay.
mural in Air Canada VIP Lounge. It was a fantastic project that I think such brought such a beauty and um, kind of um, elevated the space for all the travelers or people waiting for their next flight and enjoy art in a large scale format. Tell us more about that project and how that came about.
Well, first of all, a lot of work that we get is through what's called an RFP process. So it was tendered and we were awarded the project by Air Canada. And then we went out to a number of artists. We identified their goals and objectives. And from there, we put a short list of artists together, which then they selected 3 artists to develop concepts. So they were paid a fee for a maquette, produce a scale model or a small painting. And the commission was awarded to Gavin Lynch. So it's not a mural in the sense of some industrial way to make it. He painted that. He was inspired by Chinese scroll painting. So when you look at it, the ends of the it's a 35-foot painting, I believe, and he made it into 3 or 4 sections. But if you look at it, the story starts from the end and it works its way into the center, where there is a culmination of information and details and sort of this kind of alluring forest. And within that, there is a ever so subtle red maple leaf. And it's a nod to Air Canada's iconic emblem at the heart of the painting. So typically in a Chinese scroll painting, you work your way to the center and there's the hidden nugget. This was an interesting project in that we needed our CMP clearance to be able to access the airport, background checks, and because we were entering the airport through a secured area. So it was kind of an interesting, very James Bond-like, hidden doorways, alleyways, backways, police and ID, and it kind of added a layer of excitement to it. And going back to your mural question, a lot of corporations that want to communicate their values and their message through huge wall installations don't necessarily have enough budget. So what they do is they take a an artist's body of work, and a license may be issued or purchased, and then it gets mechanically produced, whether as a wall covering vinyl. It has to have a durability, it has to be fire rated. So there are all those other considerations that corporations or hotels take into account. All of these things are doable and cost-effective methods for artists to consider.
Yeah, and also talking about the digital art and technology, how do you balance your curation with more original or traditional forms of art, like paintings on canvas and photography, with digital art?
Well, we meticulously consider how each piece, whether traditional or digital, contributes to the overall story and atmosphere of the space. And despite the allure of digital art, we receive limited requests due to the high cost of hardware and the challenges of creating, commissioning, or purchasing content. And the rapid evolution of technology possesses concerns about the longevity, the conservation of digital works, and it always requires ongoing migration to new platforms. There's nothing worse than something that doesn't work. And I see art in downtown Toronto that's digital, that is on the fritz. And I think the Michael Snow piece was out for quite some time. There was another supposed to be a iMessage that was supposed to capture ongoing messages, is always broken every time I'm in Toronto. But we do have requests, and we have a hotel in New York where we're buying content for one of the hotels in the higher end suites. Also in Miami, we have an upcoming project where there'll be a video component at the canopy roof of the porte cochere, sort of embodying the city's pulsating energy and otherworldly essence. So as art consultants, we grapple with the question of authenticity, longevity, and the value attribution it comes to digital art. Some great examples are S04 in San Francisco. Their lobby is the most extraordinary, but the company that does work like that, it's over $1 million to create that. As Devlin out of London does the most amazing video installations. She had a show at Miami at Super Blue, sponsored by Chanel, and it was this video installation, and suddenly the doors open and you enter into this fully mirrored experience that is just so mesmerizing. So those kinds of things you really got to think about. Is there somebody to maintain it? Is it going to last? Who's going to take care of it? Maybe it's just like a stained glass, but it's video in some capacity.
Yes, they're so true. And there are so many things to think about, to consider after the project is completed, as you mentioned, the how long it's going to stay, taking care of it, and whatnot. And you mentioned that you are doing projects internationally, but you're based in Toronto. Your firm is based in Toronto. Can we talk a little bit about the art market in Canada, and whether you've seen any shifts or changes in the market lately?
Sure. The Canadian art, we also, a lot of our work is in the US, so I've noticed trends in both
Yeah,
countries.
maybe you can talk about both.
So in the Canadian art market is evolving since I started in gosh, I can't remember. I started in 90 something. I had my gallery, but the trend is shaping the industry right now is growing recognition and appreciation for Indigenous art and artists. The voices of First Nations, Inuit, Métis are always at the table at our projects, but also galleries, museums, public spaces. And in our project with Park Hyatt, we have a Anishinaabe artist, Nadia Meyer, who was commissioned to do a wampum belt, which is in the Joni restaurant. And it is one dish, one spoon. It is a welcome symbol. It is a symbol they use for treaties. It is part of their cultural identity. And we're thrilled that we're bringing more of that into our work. Also, it's interesting from a finance point of view. Years ago, I had a conversation with private equity, and he was buying First Nation artists, and he said, you know, people who are enriched by you know, their businesses like casinos, they know to buy back their culture, whether it's Chinese, whether it's Canadian, whether it's in the US, they're very smart. They buy back their own artists, Russians. So which actually alters the art market in a good way. In the United States, where many of our projects take place, we strive to educate our clients on the importance of cultural representation. And it's important, essential that the artwork reference the community, which is a United Nations Assembly of Talent. In particular, we aim to ensure African American artists have the same opportunities as their colleagues, where it's very important for us to promote diversity and inclusivity in the art world.
Yes, wonderful. And I do think it's very important to do diverse collection, whether it's for personal collection or corporate collection, especially. It's very important to collect art from different cultures, different voices, different views on the world, and different agendas. And I really like that your projects are like different in different places. They're not just in like lobbies or just in corporate spaces. They're also like outside. But you do work with a lot of hotels.
Yes,
Tell us more
yes.
about the process of like collaborating with a hotel. Like I know you worked with Hilton before, Park Hyatt, and Conrad Hotel.
Yeah, Conrad's. Sure, we work with all kinds of brands, mostly in the luxury space. We work with Fortune 500 corporations, and certain individuals we assist with their personal art collection, especially if they're at the collecting level, because we don't decorate. That's what we don't do. But in terms of hotels, art plays a crucial role in setting the tone for the entire guest experience, from the lobby throughout the rooms, the circulation space. Everything is carefully curated, memorable wow moments, in attention, and leave that artwork that leaves a lasting impression. Depending on the hotel's brand and budget, the art and design can effectively transmit its unique DNA, offering guests a glimpse into the property's character and values. In a business hotel, for example, the artwork may be strategically chosen to provide a sense of energy and motivation, encouraging guests to stay focused and productive. Conversely, in a luxury resort like an Amman, the art may be purposely curated to promote a sense of tranquility and relaxation, inviting guests to slow down and unwind. The artwork becomes a focal point that underpins the visitor's entire stay, creating an atmosphere that resonates with their desired expectations. Ultimately, guests will always remember how the hotel made them feel, and the art plays a significant role in shaping that emotional connection. If you think about it, the only thing guests really see are the furniture, the art, lighting, and if all that's perfect and the service sucks, well then all for naught. So it's all critical parts of a business model that really needs to harmonize together to make it work. And we are custodians of that part of the requirement for art.
Yeah, I really loved how you phrase it that you don't decorate hotels, and I think it's one of the myths, or a lot of people say that oh, hotels only buy prints, they don't buy originals. So
Yeah,
so true, right?
well, you just have to walk through Park Hyatt in Toronto. If your listeners have a chance, they should go and take a look. From the Porte Cochere, there's an Ante Lou. That was a commission, started out as an RFP. We invited several artists to propose, and he was awarded the commission. And that took about 2 years to make. And as you walk through the lobby, there's Christine Moran and her landscape paintings at reception. And when you, the first thing you encounter is a Shannon Boole, who is a Toronto-born, I believe, Canadian artist living in Berlin, who created a site-specific work. I believe it's about 25 feet, 30 feet long, and it was woven on a loom in Belgium. So we're kind of a global network creating something that was site specific. And she references the mannequins from the Saint Laurent Museum in Paris. So she went there and photographed them, and then she sort of superimposed iconic buildings in Toronto, architect within that, and to communicate the proximity of that building to Yorkville and the luxury shopping network, so district. And so there was this beautiful, exquisite, I think it had something like, I don't know how many thousands of shades of gray to black in the weaving. It's just an exceptional piece. Probably, I think, the best thing I've ever been involved with in
Yeah,
my
I know
career.
more and more hotels signify that it's very important to have an art programming in their places because many times I travel, I see very tiny pieces on the wall,
Yeah.
not as inspiring. Or like I have an artist friend, whenever she travels and she's not seeing any beautiful art in the rooms, she's like, I'm gonna paint something and I'm gonna put it on the wall for the time being I'm there.
Yeah, I know, I'm the same way. I look at something and I go, what did they say no to before they said yes? So I'm always, again, we're like cultural anthropologists in terms of unearthing hidden nuggets that we tend to, it recedes in the background. We forget. Our project in the Conrad, DC, that was an interesting, we were up against competing in our RFP again against the interior designer, and we were awarded it because what the city didn't need was another cherry blossom, which if you go to every hotel there, everybody's got cherry blossoms. So we took a look at what was going on in Washington at the time. Trump was in office, and we made a conscious decision to steer away from anything bombastic. And what we decided was with the client is that we would do something with soft power for the art program, which the client embraced fully. And they were unaware of a art movement that started in Washington called the Washington Color School. This was a movement in response to abstract expressionism taking place in New York. And the founders included well-known artists Morris Louis, Kenneth Nolan, and Gene Davis. And one artist we commissioned, Landon Metz, was literally said, oh, you know, my hero is Morris Louis. So what we did was we commissioned artists who were inspired directly by the Washington School. Another one was Matthew Langley, who was a student of Gene Davis. So we leveraged this connection and sought out artists who really understood what it is, the story that we wanted to tell, and celebrate American innovation and leadership through this art movement. And it is an homage to that. So we do think about the story, which is really the most important thing. Local is vocal. If you're coming to a city, you know, and we'll use Toronto because your audience is from Toronto, you don't want to see art, you know, about you know, another city that's foreign. It has nothing to do with your stay. You want to feel immersed, embraced, and that it's thoughtful, that they're thinking about your experience.
Yeah, so true. And talking about the recent project that you just did, collaborating with Quadrille and
Oh yeah.
creating an art program for one of their properties. Tell us more about your curation process, how you sourced artists, and what was your mission with this space.
Sure. We just really, that was last week or the week before it was unveiled. We've been working on that project for over a year with Quadrille, who was a wonderful client, who permitted us to lead in a way that they were unfamiliar, in that they wanted to celebrate and amplify the voices of the LGBT community. So we curated a unique and impactful program that showcases that talent. And it's seamlessly integrated with the building's interior design. The commission pieces are displayed in the lobby and the amenity spaces. They stand out for their elegance and sophistication, in serving as an extension of the artist's identities while harmonizing with the surrounding environment. The curation process began with an extensive discussion, and this was their first project in Toronto, and they came to us saying, look, we've got this iconic clock tower. It's going to be ghosted in the glass. We are preserving the fire hall, number 3. How do we go about inviting LGBTQ artists? We commissioned Julie Jenkinson, who did a site-specific piece, which is just gorgeous, where a nod to the clock. She sewed in pocket watches and gears and watch parts with leather. She wove it in this very elegant manner, very sort of reminiscent of, I've seen Maria Bonaccini, but also the zipper, the leather, the fetish. There's a nod to the equestrian horse shop that was there in the 1950s. So she really unearthed everything, created this very thoughtful installation. It's, I believe it's 15 feet long. It's quite enormous, but the zippers are what hold the panels together. So it's very clever. You've got Ed Peen in the lobby. We have a Jade Rude. We have emerging artists. We have every pronoun possible. And it's just a gorgeous, elegant project. Very proud of it.
Congratulations. And is that open for the general public to go and see it?
I think people can pop their head in to the lobby. The lobby's quite beautiful, and I'm sure if they took a tour, they would see. It's actually really thoughtful how they, everything from the gym, those amenities that are really important. There's party rooms. There's we have First Nation artists in there. It's Jason Berg, just really a wonderful circulatory journey when you arrive in the lobby and move your way up to the 39th floor. I think that giving people a pride in their home and feeling like they can bring people back and entertain, all of that was thought through in this particular residential tower.
Wonderful. And when working with clients, whether it's a commercial client or private client, you need to be able to understand their tastes and what they're looking for. How do you usually go about it?
Well, if we're guiding a client through an art aesthetic collection, we have to get an understanding of what they like. They need to understand the market. If you're at a connoisseurship level, you're probably well along in your education. If you're spending 6-7 figures, I have a client that I bought a Donald Judd at 6 figures. It's now at 7, but he's an educated client. A lot of people jump into this thinking they're going to make a fortune. Also, people, when you say the word art, just lose their mind. I just think I'm not going to touch it. We have installers saying, oh, that's art. We only do mirrors. I'm not touching the art. And it's like, okay, well, you're going to drill a hole into a mirror with a diamond tip, but you won't put the art up. Like, I don't get it. It's not that precious, but yes, it needs care. But yeah, people lose their mind when they hear the word art. I don't know what happens.
And art in general is so subjective. What is, in your opinion, good taste in artists?
Well, again, going to, there's people who have criteria for collecting. I know somebody who collects photography where every piece the eyes are obscured, and that's his focus. A lot of another client just buys secondary market, proven track record, blue chip. They're in museums. They're, you know, they're desired. They come up at auction. I think that going back to your question earlier about trends, I think people are looking for emerging artists. I think it's important to support the art fairs instead of buying, you know, art off of Instagram and Etsy. Those are important venues and routes for young collectors to start. But I think going to art fairs, community-based art fairs, organized or satellite art fairs around major art fairs where they're anchored by the major, all of those sort of attendant art fairs are really important to support. There's a lot of creativity in the world, and how do you get noticed? And you know, when you're at a collector level, you're reading critics, you're reading reviews, you're operating at a different level. So people can't go into this notion that, oh, I'm going to buy art and I'm going to make a fortune, sell it. It doesn't work like that. It's just, you have to love it because you're going to live with it. It has to
For
speak to
sure.
you.
And I think a lot of talking about blue chip art was before pre-pandemic. And then during the pandemic, more people were buying because they wanted to surround themselves with beautiful pieces on the walls. And this is more like a secondary factor for a lot of collectors right now. Like flipping art is maybe, but most of them will want to enjoy it every day instead of keeping it in the basement. But do you think we do have blue chip galleries in Canada? Because it's
Oh,
more
yeah, for
states.
sure. Absolutely. My favorite is Daniel Faria. And I think he's got a remarkable eye. He's probably, as a former gallery owner, I've prided myself on response time, professional decks, sending back information to clients, properly priced out CVs. I rarely meet the level of professionalism that I encounter with Daniel. Usually it's, you know, they forget, it's not important. Maybe it comes, or I'll have to call 5, 6, 7 times. So I think it's really important to take your business seriously because art is a serious business. And, you know, over the course of my career, I have spec'd millions and millions and millions of dollars of art. So there's a certain way one has to operate, and in a professional manner.
For sure. And to your point of being a gallery owner, what was the shift? Why you decided to change your business model and become an art consultant and open a firm?
I think it was kind of an existential crisis. I'm a free spirit, and I didn't want to be tethered to my desk any longer. So I, I came, I came to, I was living in Los Angeles, and I came back to Toronto and kind of figured out through taking French at U of T. I thought, well, I'll just keep my French up. And as that sort of came around to a call from a client and another client, and it sort of led me down a path of art curation for hotels. It satisfied all my loves of travel, art, and design. And that's kind of how I got back into it. This is about 15 years now.
Wonderful. And then you work with a lot of artists as a gallery owner and also as a consultant these days. For every artist listening, how they can work with an art consultant? Is there a way to reach out, send a portfolio? I know you don't represent artists like full time, but do you keep your favorite artists on your like portfolio list to look through when you have a project? Something like that.
I wish it was that easy. It's really I guess it's like dating.
Mhm.
It's you keep swiping until the right artist meets the criteria and the narrative of what you're doing. Always looking for talented artists. And I think it's really important that we never stop. But again, when I started my career, I could not believe how poorly artists presented their work. And I think it's incumbent on schools to educate artists about business. And when they enter the world of art, they don't know how to price their work. They don't know how to talk about their work. They don't know how to respond to an RFP. They don't understand why they're not getting public art commissions, because they never actually had real life training in their art schools, how to display the art, how to frame it, how to, they did studio time, but they never studied art history. And so it's really important. I used to volunteer. I'd say to the schools, I'll come and talk to your students. Nobody would let me come in and talk to them. I've adjudicated portfolios all over the world. And it can be the best 20 minutes or it can be the worst 20 minutes, especially when artists are just too shy or incapable of speaking about their process or how they arrived at their body of work. But I don't want to discourage anybody. It's just it's key that they develop a strong portfolio that showcases the depth and breadth of their work with high quality documentation, professional photographs, detailed descriptions, a clear artist statement, articulating creative vision, themes, concepts driving their work. When reaching out to art consultants, and you've got to ensure you've reviewed their websites. How many people have sent me their portfolio thinking that we were a fit? We weren't, because they never even, I said, did you look at my website? Because that will help to shape your email or a letter to me and know if your work is a fit. Again, we're narrative driven. So if it doesn't fit the narrative, it doesn't fit. But down the road, I will remember. I have a pretty good recall about art that I see. The Shannon Boole that's in the Park Hyatt, I had seen it 5 years earlier. And I thought one day I'm going to place that artist's work, and it finally came. And there was no opportunity in those 5 years to work with her because this was the right thing. So that's how it kind of works. And I think that you have to be persistent, and your work has to evolve, and looking and reading. One of the other nuggets that was imparted in me when I first started out, you can only learn through looking. And I travel all over looking at artists, art fairs, biennales, magazines, curators, conversations. These are really important to have for artists starting out. And again, it's looking for those wows, something
Yeah.
I've never seen.
And I always, when artists ask me this question, say like, make sure obviously that it has to be a fit. Like, look at all of the past projects and see what works art consultants were using, but also don't have any expectations to get your work right away placed into a project. It can be, as you mentioned, like 5 years from now that you might
Yeah,
have a fit. It's
as long as
more
I see it.
making a connection
Yeah.
and be genuine about it.
That's all. Again, I have on my business card, problem solver. That's what we do every day. When someone goes, what do you do for a living? I'm like a problem solver. Even though we're in art, all we do, if you think about it, we have to calculate the load of a ceiling and how much that can take for a piece of art. The floor, the structure, the foundation, is it fire rated? What's behind the walls? Is there blocking? It's not that simple. So
Yeah, that's a lot of behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know about art consultants in general. Are there
mhm.
any big myths that you would like to debunk about the industry or your work in general?
Sure, sure. I think there's a common misconception about art consultants that they do what they do for free. And a lot of people don't understand sometimes. I mean, the ones that we work with understand enough. They value what we bring to the table. We have a unique set of skills, which is different from an interior designer architect. We know about art. And so that is the value proposition that we present. We don't hide our fees. We're not the business model where they're, like a warehouse and they have artists in the back painting, move a line here, move that. We're working with real, genuine artists who fabricate, who create, who paint, who sculpt. That is in line with the vision for whatever project we're working on. So other business models are, well, we'll do it for free, but they bury everything in the art budget. So if you have a $500,000 art budget, maybe they're spending 150 on actual materials and the rest is pocketed. And so over a course of 25, 30 years in this business, it's important that if a project gets canceled or stopped, we've at least been paid for our time and our ideas, because we're an idea generator. We're a knowledge-based business that we don't bury, we're transparent, and it's upfront. And I think it's really important that clients understand that, because we lose a lot of jobs because somebody doesn't charge a fee and they're like, well, at least we're transparent.
Yes. And I think that's the right way to go. And like you have your set of rules and you
Mhm.
feel more comfortable when those rules are in place. But also, you haven't mentioned the contact list, or like, so many galleries, and like you can
Yeah.
outsource this art at this fair or this place. You can probably like in a second think about a place where you can find the specific piece that client are asking about.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of people can do.
No, and I don't think these big factories that, I did a project in China where in Shenzhen, where there's just like row after row after row of art. And that's probably why they hire Western companies, because what's happening in those places is just IP, misappropriation. And you have to be really careful about working in certain markets, because they operate very differently. And again, it's really the integrity of what we do and the integrity of the artist process. And many times there are many people involved in our projects. It gets handed off perhaps to a procurement company. Well, I don't know if you met somebody in procurement, they're really an invaluable part of the process, but they're kind of gruff. They're project managers and they don't, they're going to phone some famous artist and go, look, you got to do me evidence that you created this. And so they don't understand the nuances of speaking with an artist. It's you have to have diplomacy, patience. They're just a very different breed. They create a lot of beauty in the world that lasts, and they're required certain care and handling.
Absolutely. And you definitely wear a lot of hats too throughout the project. And for everyone who is like an art professional at the beginning of their career, maybe thinking about art curation or becoming an art consultant down the road, what would you recommend them do, or how to train their taste and eye?
Well, first of all, always looking. I have a lot of friends who call me and say, my daughter just graduated from Boston University or this university or that with an art history degree. And I said, do they have computer skills? Well, no. And I'm not sure how anyone is able to tell a story, even if you worked at a gallery at Gagosian or Matthew Marr, anywhere. You have to be able to, first of all, have a network. You also need to be able to, if you're going to sell me $1 million piece of art, you have to present that in a way that is beautiful, right? The information, the image, clarity, an artist statement, the provenance, all of that is in a computer. And so they get discouraged because they say, well, look, I can't hire somebody that doesn't have computer skills. And it's less important about art knowledge but having good taste, which is either you have it or you don't. You can't teach that. And style, and it's the, the je ne sais quoi kind of thing. It's just somebody who really intrinsically understands and it resonates with them. I highly encourage everyone who is thinking of a career to have computer skills. If you don't want to learn AutoCAD or things that are in the interior design and architecture world, you should at least have Photoshop, Illustrator, Adobe Creative Suite. Those are really, really important. And obviously, project management is even more important to be able to juggle all these things, all these clients at the same time.
Yeah, you'll probably do hundreds of mock-ups per month.
Oh my God. It's an iterative process, what we do. What we start with and what we end up might change 10 times. But again, because we're fee-based, we have to put those guardrails in and say, well, you only get to change it maybe 3 to 5 times, if maybe 2.
Yes.
But I encourage everybody to build a strong network of contacts, artists, gallerists, consultants, everybody. Ours is a collegial collaborative process. There's no I in team, there's no I in Tatar. It is really a group of people that share a passion for what they do, curiosity. That is really important. I speak 3 languages, barely English, but having that lens is also really important, in terms of a worldly perspective.
Yes, absolutely. And do you have any exciting upcoming projects that you're finishing soon or that are coming up?
Yeah, we've got that public art installation happening in October in Toronto with a South Korean artist. I don't want to name them because then I just there's no surprise. We have an office tower that we're working on in Qatar. And we're also involved in, these are NDA projects, but one in Texas, a big master plan in California, and a luxury hotel in the Caribbean. So those are sort of on the horizon, along with Miami. And so it's an exciting horizon. We're very excited. My team is diligently working. We work together and realizing all of these endeavors.
Wonderful. I'm excited to see everything when it's done, and we will be able to see the photos and all the beautiful artworks that you outsource
Mhm.
for those projects. But for all the clients who are listening and would like to learn more about the services, you and the company, where they can find you.
Well, obviously LinkedIn, my name, Judith Tatar, and our website, tatarartprojects.com, or our Instagram account at Tatar Art Projects. Also, we have this wonderful project in Philadelphia and Washington I forgot about. Everything is commissioned and it's an industrial building, so industrial-based artworks. Somebody uses electrical wire to create the art. So, we're digging into everything, delving into everything with what we do. And that's the fun part, is to go, wow, that somebody thought about that and made art.
Wonderful. So, Judith, it's been such a pleasure to chat with you today, learn more about you, your story, and your creative process. I hope to meet you in person one day soon, and look at your projects that are coming up.
I appreciate that. We'll be sure to include you on any openings. I really appreciate your time and your very thoughtful questions. And I hope your listeners learn and are curious and to definitely send us their portfolio. And we'll take a look.